Watch us talk sports
each Wednesday at noon
on WEIU.net, WEIU Digital TV.
I'm Rob Calhoun.
I'm Jeff Owens.
And I'm Rameen Karbassioon.
On our 11th show, we'll talk all about sportscasters.
It should be a good show if you love sports and love broadcasting.
All right, we're going to talk about the guys that yap about sports for a living. So, Rob, what's up first?
Joe Buck.
Joe Buck, mostly known for baseball, the lineage of Jack Buck's son. Joe Buck is, one of the premier broadcasters in America in terms of baseball, does some other stuff as well, football. But obviously he's been a legend around these parts. I met Joe when he was really young, on the coming up, and you just knew he had that it factor about him.
Just got inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame as a broadcaster, the Frick Award.
Yeah, he was on the call when the Chicago Cubs won the 2016 World Series, and I just thought he let the moment speak for itself instead of going crazy like some sportscasters would, because that was a big moment. It would have been a big moment if either team would have won, the Cubs or the Indians.
He was on a recent episode with Rich Eisen, and he's been reminiscing about 27, 28 years of doing this. I didn't realize this, but his uncle also did some broadcasting for the Evansville Aces. So it's a lineage thing, and I know he's just doing mainly football right now, but unlike some people, I enjoy Joe Buck.
There you go. Howard Cosell.
Oh, boy.
For you older people, you're going to know Howard Cosell. He was a mainstay on ABC Sports in the 70s, I think into the early 80s. Very opinionated. He was big into boxing announcing. That's where he made his fame with the Muhammad Ali stuff. I mean, he was good for the sports that he covered. He was very dividing and divisive because of his opinions, but nobody had a voice like him, and nobody could tell a story like him in the middle of a broadcast.
And the people that watched those early beginning years of Monday Night Football, things that they enjoyed about him that I've read and seen about were the halftime highlights.
And the thing about it is, too, that you either liked him or hated him. I liked the guy. I thought he was very good at what he did, and then ended up stepping away from boxing after a fight got a little bit out of hand when he thought they should have stopped it. Yeah.
So, Howard Cosell, very divisive, but, just an innovator in sports media, because he would tell other stuff during the broadcast. He was the first one to veer off of sports into politics, into music, the John Lennon stuff and all that stuff. So he was innovative, and so I don't dislike Howard Cosell. I won't say he's my favorite, but respect is
the olden days of ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Yep. Let's talk about some local sportscasters, and I just want to give a shout out to the best in the biz, Mike Brad.
I thought you were going to say Rameen.
Hey, I'm a youngin' on this list, but I wrote down Mike Brad, Rob here, who's been doing it quite a long time. These are current broadcasters. I know there's one other one that we're probably going to name drop. Lane Blickham, Greg Powers, and a shout out to Matt Robinson down at XFM. He's carrying the reins now of those folks down there in Effingham, as Greg Sapp has taken a back seat from doing sports broadcasts. I really enjoy hearing Matt call all those NTC games down there in Effingham County.
Yeah, we've been lucky in this area to have guys like you carry on the tradition that was set forth by Ken Waddell, and then Jack Ashmore, Mike Brad, Greg Powers does a great job for Green Wave and Lakeland Sports. Lane Blickham has taken the reins over in Mattoon as well, doing a lot of stuff. Greg Sapp, Matt Robinson, Dustin White from Effingham. Yeah. So we're really lucky in Central Illinois to have some of the broadcasters that we've had on sports.
Larry Wilson, another great sportscaster down from the Effingham area. And people don't realize how lucky we are to have these guys that are dedicated, that don't get paid a whole lot, but do it because they love it. And we have to add Rameen to the list, too. He's the voice of the Trojans from boys basketball now.
Glad to be working with Randy Harpster, who knows a lot about ball. And I want to give a little nugget about Mike Brad. I got to work with Mike when we were simulcasting the ball games with our sports production truck, and the meticulousness, the preparation.
It's a pretty big word for you.
That Mike Brad deserves that word because his organizational skills are second to none.
I challenge anyone, and I'm talking anyone, to be more prepared for a ball game than Mike Brad is.
There you go. And self-promotion here. Hitmix 88.9 WEIU Radio will have all the EIU games with Mike Brad starting Thursday, August 27th.
Another legendary voice on the national scene is Vin Scully.
Vin Scully, he was the picture painter, the first really guy that didn't really like to have a color analyst because he just liked to call the game, tell the stories, set the stage. He's the first one to describe the uniforms to the people so they could visualize it while listening to radio. And so he was just that innovative, tell a story, soothing voice. He didn't get too excited, didn't get too low, but he just told a great story. His voice is I would say second to one, not none. We'll get to him later.
I mean, well, he was great on the Sunday afternoon baseball telecast, and just a great guy too.
Welcome to Chavez Ravine.
My first, as I mentioned on previous episodes, my first significant sports call that I watched on TV of a moment was that Game 1 of the '88 World Series where Kirk Gibson hit the home run off Dennis Eckersley. That was my indoctrination to Vin Scully. Obviously, he had done many games prior to that, but what a moment.
Harry Carey, the legendary voice of the Chicago Cubs, was with the St. Louis Cardinals at one time too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go first on this one because I remember being lucky enough to grow up in Charleston, Illinois with basic cable, and we had Channel 9. And so the reason why I'm kind of partially a Cubs fan, I'm mostly a Royals fan, but is that the Cubs were on, and I'd get home about 3:20, 3:30, just in time to see Harry Carey do Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
One of the things about Harry Carey, he was just not sports. He became an icon in the other parts of life. He was the first one to go mainstream. They made fun of him on Saturday Night Live. Other comedians did impressions of him. And he could go on any talk show at night, and him and Bob Uecker would just kill it. And so Harry really took sportscasting into the more of the mainstream where people knew. They may have never watched a baseball game ever, but they knew Harry Carey was the voice of the Cubs.
Yeah, and was just a great guy. He's very, very personable too. And the thing about him is, jumping out there and singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" like Rameen talked about. He was not a good singer, but
No.
he had fun up there doing it, and that's what you need to do. You have to have fun in the broadcast booth.
That's what I want to say is that he had fun doing it.
There you go.
Joe's dad, Jack Buck.
That's a winner.
Yeah, Jack Buck's famed St. Louis Cardinal baseball broadcaster, did some World Series as well. The CBS ones I know in the early 90s he did. If you guys remember the poem he did after 9/11 that brought tears to most people's eyes, they still play that pretty much on a loop outside Busch Stadium. And it was one of the most incredible broadcasting moments of all time when Jack Buck did that. Just a legend. He got lucky that he was on KMOX and got famous all over the middle part of America and just took his fame to the national level and was one of probably the classiest of broadcasters.
I love the Nuggets.
You do love Nuggets.
Jack Buck and Joe Buck, obviously, father and son, 50 years apart. They called my two Chiefs Super Bowl wins there. So that was pretty neat.
I mean, who didn't like listening to Jack Buck on KMLX radio? I mean, he was the legendary voice of the Cardinals for a long time, and he just did it the right way.
Well, the other thing people forget about how big KMOX was back in the 60s, 70s, early 80s was if you were a fan of another team, you would turn into that signal at night because you couldn't get maybe your local
It was
team.
a huge coverage area.
So I mean, when the Braves played the Cardinals, I always was listening to KMOX, and you just knew you were listening to a legend in broadcasting.
It's kind of like the same thing with me and Harry Carey is that, you got those stations, whether it be TV or radio, and you kind of become fans because they were accessible.
There you go.
EIU alum, Tony Romo.
Okay, so
When we wrote this, we didn't know Tony was going to be in trouble,
man.
but
Our boy.
EIU's Tony Romo, was really an innovator in sports broadcasting on the color analyst side. He was the first one to predict plays and get them right, and he really took off, and he signed a gigantic contract. Unfortunately, he's gotten in a little trouble in Wisconsin with operating while under an intoxicated, and that'll all go through the courts. He's suspended right now, but Tony Romo has made an impact in broadcasting, so I don't think the people that are saying it's the end of Tony Romo's broadcasting career, I think they're way wrong.
8 years, if my math is correct on that. He's called some Super Bowl action there, and obviously that very, very wealthy paycheck. But I would like to think that Tony Romo is going to be able to bounce back from this because nobody's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the thing about Tony Romo, you talked about him predicting plays. Some people didn't like that. I thought it was great because, I've never played the game, but I broadcast football games, and it's kind of nice to be able to see that and see what he's seeing to be able to predict a play.
The insight of the
quarterback's
game
eyes, yeah.
because he's been in that huddle, and other people that have talked about him since the unfortunate incident is that Tony Romo would know what's coming because he had that knowledge of the game.
Yep.
The voice of the Illini for a long time, Brian Barnhart.
Wow.
Yeah, when we were talking about local, we kind of didn't go all the way to the Champaign-Urbana area, but Brian Barnhart is a great broadcaster for the University of Illinois for their football and basketball telecast broadcast. a really good announcer. He does a lot for the community up in Champaign as well. Again, much like Mike Brad, very prepared, meticulous, nice guy. Doesn't go either too high or too low on things. You know what you're getting when you listen to Barnhart.
What I enjoy about Brian Barnhart, and we'll talk about this with some of the other people that we have on our list, is when he gets to that big moment, he raises that voice at, I think, the appropriate level and amplifies that big moment that's happening in the game.
And that voice of his is just so fantastic too. Dulcet tones is like some people like to call that. He just really is articulate, like Jeff said, and really knows how to call a game.
One of the things about Brian that he's instituted that a lot of broadcasters aren't using is he is using social media very, very well in the broadcast. He incorporates it into when there's long breaks or timeouts and stuff. And he'll say, and his big thing is, where are you listening from? And if you listen to the Sports Network, there are people listen online all over the country, and he calls them out, and it makes you feel like you're really a part of the broadcast. And he's done a really good job with that.
Dan Patrick from ESPN.
Boy.
He's my idol. I mean, he's my number one in terms of out there right now. Fortunately, he's going to retire in a couple years, but it sounds like the Dan Patrick show will continue. It's just without Dan Patrick in a couple years.
He's moved around to various places since ESPN, and he had the Sunday Night Football hosting gig. But he was on the Dan Le Batard show, I think, a day or two ago, and Dan Le Batard is, whether you like him or not, he was giving Dan the ultimate kudos, is that the way Dan does what he does, he has become one of those standards.
And he's a great interviewer, too.
Yeah, and the sports centers with him and Keith Olbermann were just so fantastic.
Welcome to the big show.
If you recall, he actually started at CNN Sports, and and when his contract was up, he thought he was going to be done.
Fred Hickman and those guys from back in the day. What a group those
from
guys
Danville,
are.
Illinois, Fred Hickman, by the way.
Wonderful. Another Danvillian. There you go.
And so then Dan thought his career was over, and then ESPN said, no, we want you, and then the rest is history, as they say.
This next guy is legendary with college football pregame shows, and that's Reese Davis.
Reese Davis has had quite a run. I know ESPN's had a lot of layoffs. I know the Carl Ravage one kind of struck everybody, but Reese Davis has now quietly been at ESPN a really long time, very steady.
Yeah, steady. You know what you're getting. When you hear Reese Davis, you think college football. I mean, if that voice comes on, there's a good college football game planned. That's why I look at it.
College game day, yeah.
Yep.
He hosts one of the most, I guess, popular or important sports shows that we have out there.
I just love listening to him or watching that on a Saturday morning and getting the insight about some of the best college football games that are going on there.
And he has to keep all those idiots in line. So
that's exactly what I was going to say. He has quite an eclectic group that has changed through the years, and one of those idiots is the next name on our list.
I was going to say, Pat McAfee.
You guys talk about that guy.
Well, I do like the fact that they do that kicking thing where you can win some of Pat's money. I do like that on the ESPN broadcasts.
Is it really his money?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. But he's added a new dimension to the world of sportscasting that you either love it or hate it. There is no middle ground with McAfee. But I will give him this. I love his energy. It's added a new wrinkle that I don't have a problem with.
He is the opposite of Vin Scully. There's class and there's classless. Pat McAfee is a classless individual who's only in it for himself. He wears a tank top, looking like an idiot, a belt buckle like he's from South Carolina. It's all about him. It's not about the sports. Let's move on.
Hey, who put this list together? Because you put Pat McAfee next to another person that's...
Well, I was thinking, I got into a bad zone here.
Well, I understand that, but a lot of people right now, he's probably an enigma to sportscasting. Who is it, Rob?
Stephen A. Smith, who
gosh.
I always think sounds mad all the time.
He's yelling all the time. I mean,
that's the new Sports Center, and that's the new ESPN. They just yell and yell at you.
And the problem is, there's other people that I didn't write on here. One guy that I watch almost every afternoon on Fox Sports 1, they say he yells. He's not yelling like Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is yelling. Mm-hmm. There's yelling, and then there's his yelling.
Stephen A. Smith thinks he's the show. He thinks his, what doesn't stink.
He's become more important than the team.
Yeah. He is very opinionated too, and his opinion is right.
And his opinion goes into everything. It's music, it's politics.
Stephen O. Smith.
Who should start and everything. So yeah.
Well,
let's get back on track here with another legend of broadcasting.
Do you believe in miracles? Al Michaels.
I think for me and Rob, we grew up with Al Michaels. He did the Monday Night Baseball. He did obviously the 1980 Olympics.
I'm not that young, guys. My very first Super Bowl that I ever watched on TV was Redskins Broncos, and Al Michaels was on the call.
Was that the late 80s?
That was 87, 88. Doug Williams, 5 touchdowns.
I'd already
That
had
was
14 years of Al Michaels.
I know, but he's done a lot of games since then. My very first computer sports game was Al Michaels, so I got to hear those soothing tones back then in the late 80s.
Al Michaels also originally was hired by the Lakers, remember, with their famous announcer, who's
Chick Hearn.
Chick Hearn. And Chick Hearn goes, who's this
Chicky
guy? They go,
baby.
we got to get him a job in case you ever leave. So they kind of got him started.
He was calling games for the Big Red Machine in the 70s, and he just kind of latched on because of the way baseball was done back in that time with the World Series.
I remember him talking about the win over the Soviet Union where he made that iconic call. He said he just wanted to say something not to mess up.
And they had that wonderful sports movie with Kurt Russell, who played the coach of the United States Olympic hockey team, and obviously Al Michaels' voice was there, and he came back in for that movie and revoiced his exact words, which was kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, and Al Michaels still doing football. He's still going to be on prime this year. Might be his last year. We don't know.
Yeah, it might be
He's
his
year to
last
year.
year. Yep.
But people say he's lost a step. Really? When
No,
you're 70-some years
no.
old, you might lose a step, but that doesn't mean you're still not at the top of your game.
No, I always look forward to an Al Michaels called football game.
Longtime NBC basketball broadcaster and for the New York Knicks, Marv Albert.
Yes, and it counts.
Marv Albert is another one of those guys we all grew up, watching, liking. He did every sport there was. He was big into hockey as well, a lot of New York sports, and so you got to love Marv.
There's a lot of sportscasters that I've heard since Marv Albert has retired. His voice is not what it used to be, and obviously not calling games. But they reference growing up with Marv Albert, and they've tried to emulate his style and try and be somewhat like him in their own way. So Marv Albert is a legend to many.
He was able to overcome a little bit of controversy, and I just always loved listening to him and the way he got excited about certain plays.
That run of the NBA on NBC with Marv Albert on the call was great times, especially if you were a Bulls fan.
The czar of the television.
Mike Fratello.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
And college football legendary voice Keith Jackson.
Oh, Nelly.
Which he never said, by the way. Did you guys know that? He never said O'Neill on a broadcast.
Well, that's all right. It's still,
But that's what he's famous for. How you're
said.
famous for something that you didn't do because you're so good at your sport. Keith Jackson, I think, is still missed in the
He's
college
known
football.
for college football, but it's amazing if you look at his bio, all the other things
He
he's
did Monday
called.
Night Football for a little bit. He did baseball. He did. He was big into race car racing announcing.
And I can't remember exactly off the top of my head because there's so many broadcasters in front of us here to talk about. Wasn't that famous Rose Bowl in 06, that game? Was that like his last game?
It was. Yeah, he did it. It was whenever he finished on was a high tide game.
Considered one of the greatest college football games of all time, and you had one of the greatest voices on it.
Yep.
Yeah, I always loved listening to him too during those broadcasts of college football. You always knew you were going to get a great call when you tuned into a Keith Jackson game.
Speaking of great calls, the next guy is probably the NFL equivalent.
Yes, it is Pat Summerall, the man.
I got his book for Christmas, and I just have started it, and it's really good, and it's behind the scenes of his career. Again, just one of those. Again, classy, steady, doesn't get in trouble, doesn't go too far to either side in terms of controversy. Called the game. Let his color guy do what he needed to do, and then kept you on track. For some reason, you always think NFC East with Pat Summerall. Cowboys, Redskins,
Those CBS
Cowboys,
games
Giants.
in the 80s, yeah. We'll talk about his longtime partner in the booth here in just a second, but first of all, let's talk about ice hockey.
Yeah, Doc Emmerich.
Hockey is not the same without Doc.
Wow.
And I'm a Penguins fan, so those last couple of times they won it. He was on the voice of the NBC at the time, and the fact that he retired and he still had some left in the tank, but he goes, I want to go out in the top. And so there's other guys that do really good at hockey, but Doc Emmerich will always be the play-by-play voice in my heart for NHL hockey.
Absolutely. I haven't watched too many hockey games through the years, but I did catch some of those last years of Doc Emmerich, and I can see why he is revered as that guy.
The former Raiders coach and partner of Pat Summerall for a long time, John Madden.
Boom! Again, John Madden, changed the course of how you become an analyst. He didn't do the stuff like other people did. He went with his own little weird languages, and he gave you the insight to football. Then the Madden video game took off. He just he's an icon
And
of pop culture.
he created what everybody does now on sportscast, telestration.
Yep.
And the funny thing about it is he never, ever flew to a game.
Madden
He always-
Cruiser, baby.
Yes, the Madden Cruiser. And he just set the staple for color
Bigger than
analysts
life,
everywhere.
coach, broadcaster, and nobody had any idea the success that the Madden football video game would have.
And the self-deprecating humor, like I didn't prepare for this game, and then he would get in there and he'd know the third string tight end was from Louisville, and so he did. But he just the way he came across was so fun.
And he created the phrase "turducken."
Turducken. Forgot about that.
Another NFL commentator, Dick Enberg, a staple for AFC broadcasts.
Most famous game he ever called, maybe Magic versus Larry, that Indiana State Michigan State national championship in the late 70s.
And the cold game, the coldest game in NFL history, he was on the call. Dick Enberg. It was just, I always think of West Coast football. He did a lot of the.
Oh, you're talking about the Freezer Bowl?
Yeah, the Freezer Bowl.
Yeah.
So he did just an icon, and probably underappreciated because he wasn't the biggest name. Summerall and everybody else at the time, Al Michaels, but you couldn't go wrong with a Dick Enberg.
Oh my, he was good.
Yes, he was very good, and a person that you could just really enjoy listening to as he called the game.
And Todd, this next guy, Rob, he has been on some of the broadcasts of some of the most important sports ever of the last 40, 50 years.
Bob Costas, legendary for Olympic coverage,
Yes.
Olympic coverage. He's a baseball savant when it comes to stats and things like that. He's based out of St. Louis now. He's still doing some stuff for Major League Baseball / ESPN / NBC, whatever it is. It's hard to keep track of who's doing what, but everybody loves Bob Costas. He will give an opinion, but his opinion he will base on fact, and he'll say that he thinks Willie Mays is this, and he'll compare it, and he'll make you believe that maybe that's possible because he just doesn't spout opinions like Stephen A. Smith. He gives you the factoids behind them, and I like that a lot about
Bob Costas, if I recall, part of that lineage of great Syracuse alum broadcasters. And going back to John Madden for a second, when John Madden was auditioning for TV, he got paired up. His first practice assignment was with Bob Costas way back in the day. But Bob Costas, he's been doing it a really long time.
Was he on the pregame show when the earthquake struck during the World Series?
Yeah.
And he did a fantastic job.
I believe so.
Yes, I think it was, yes.
Because he was the only one because of the way that worked out.
Jim McKay, another college football
Wide
announcer.
World of Sports from ABC.
Yeah, Jim McKay. I always think of the Olympics when I think of Jim McKay. He was just so good at just
Good
great.
and bad moments.
Yeah, he covered the '76 Montreal tragedies. And the Munich as well.
Yeah.
So he had a bunch of great. But he just when they put that camera in the box, he was one of the first people to use the box. That kind of. And he just would be up there telling the story, and just had to do some stuff. When he would go on the air, not sometimes knowing what was going on because they were feeding him that information last second. Handle it like a true pro with everything going on behind the scenes.
I agree. You should certainly associate Jim McKay with all that Olympic coverage back in the day.
And I was thinking, from the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat.
Yeah, Wide World of Sports.
Yes. Hello, friends.
Jim Nantz.
Oh, yes.
Love him or not love him, he's one of those guys that's kind of can cross. So he's kind of an opinionated, probably not the nicest person if you ever meet him anywhere, from what I hear. But a great broadcaster, a friggin' unbelievable voice when you think of voices from Masters golf, football, everything. So
Want to sneak in there? One of our WEIU alums was a Jim Nantz winner, John Twerk.
Yes. I forgot about that.
The National Sportscaster of the Year at the collegiate level.
Wonderful picture. Jim Nantz, he's done it all. He's obviously removed himself from the college basketball scene. He loves golf. He was asked by somebody, I think it might have been Dan Patrick, if you could only call one of them. I can't remember the answer, but it was agonizing for him to not be able to call a Super Bowl or the Masters. I think the answer was Masters for him.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Mike Tirico.
He's probably the premier sportscaster right now.
Has to be with all the work he's doing.
Yeah, he does it all. He can do any sport. He's classy, calls the game, and he knows the players. He knows whatever game he's doing, whatever sport he's doing, he's right there, top of the line.
I mean, to think Mike Tirico, the opportunity he has, he comes in, smart hire by NBC. Not that we should be critiquing in a good or bad way a company for hiring someone, but who did he succeed? Al Michaels, and the run Al Michaels had as the Sunday Night Football play-by-play guy. Mike Tirico has taken that and kept it really, really good.
Yeah, he is a phenomenal sportscaster. You know that anytime that you tune on to see Tirico, he's going to give you the information that you want to hear.
You're in a pro's pro.
Yep, exactly.
Boom! Chris Berman. NFL prime
Nobody.
time. Chris Berman was, for me as a kid learning to watch the game of football on TV, I watched NFL primetime in its heyday. It was a fantastic show. The highlights were great. And Boomer and that color he brought to the highlights.
Oh, he's known for his highlights. He's known for his nicknames. Known for back, all the stuff that he's done. Probably retired a little too early because he's still hanging around ESPN. He's just not full time anymore.
He used to do the home run derby,
Yeah.
and I think he called Cal Ripken's record-breaking game live on TV. I think I made sure to watch that game.
Yeah,
he
that's
did
when
a great job.
they didn't talk. That was a broadcaster did not talk.
And that's when you know, when you have these guys that we're talking about today, whether they be local to the giants of sportscasting, letting the moment breathe. I can really appreciate that.
I always loved the nicknames and, him during the home run derby.
Bert, be home, but I love it. He had so to be young again, McDowell. He had
They
the
were
great
pretty
nickname.
Lito.
Yeah, there you go.
Harry Callis.
Harry Callis, the single greatest voice in radio history, in my opinion. If you've never listened to Harry Callis, he's a Philadelphia Phillies
Yes.
play-by-play guy, 70s, 80s, I think maybe into the 90s. He did some national stuff too on some
NFL films.
Yeah, and some. But oh my God, his voice. When I first heard his voice, I thought it was fake because nobody's voice should be as good as Harry Callis's was. It still is unbelievable. I find myself sometimes I'll go back on YouTube and listen to Harry Callis.
Golden Pipes remind us of another local, one of our local broadcasts. Those Golden Pipes are fantastic. This next guy going way back.
It really is. Mel Allen, I always think about
Hey!
This Week in Baseball.
Twib
I
notes
loved
with
it.
Mel Allen. Mel Allen. Don't know that much about his sportscasting style because that was a little before all of our time. Big Yankees announcer, New York based, but he was one of the first stars of sports broadcasting.
This Week in Baseball was a great program to watch when it was on. I really enjoyed looking forward to that.
I mean, I watched it every week
Oh, yeah.
because it was just so good.
This next guy, I think, is very underappreciated. He had a great run covering all the sports he did. Really, really great job in the 80s in the heyday of the Lakers Celtics.
Oh, yeah. Dick Stockton, one of the best in the biz.
Yeah, just a professional. Probably, I don't know if he's most well known for NBA because he did football as well. And just a great announcer. I put him on this list because, again, Rameen took the words right out of my mouth. Underappreciated, probably undervalued, so consistent, always showed up, never had an excuse not to be at a broadcast. Seemed like he was at everywhere. Back then, it was tougher to get to the places as it is today.
He did all the sports.
Yep.
He
Yeah.
did all of them. All the big sports. He's done them.
He done them all and did them well. Vern Lundquist.
The grandfather of college football, I think is his nickname. Just when you heard SEC football with Vern Lundquist, it was just great.
Called some of the great moments at the Masters. Yes, sir! You know?
Yeah, he just had that unique style that nobody could really
And
duplicate.
he was, before he was doing national TV, he was on the call of Cowboys games on the radio. He has to be the sickest man on the earth, the tight end that dropped the ball in the Super Bowl against the Steelers.
Smith was the last
Yes.
name. Thank you, Smith.
Jim Gray.
He's a reporter.
He's more of a reporter, but he's one of the first reporters that did not care. He was getting out there to get a story, and he would ask anybody any question. He had guts. He still does.
Felt like a news thing with Jim Gray,
Yeah.
and obviously one of his most famous things was LeBron James, The Decision.
Yep.
Yes. Kurt Gowdy.
Kurt Gowdy, another legendary broadcaster. I always think of Redskin Cowboy games with Kurt Gowdy.
Yes.
I did radio and TV, mostly football, but I think he also did a lot of baseball too for like NBC's number 2 team.
Kurt Gowdy was calling games when we had a lot of these other legends at the time. What a melting pot of broadcasters back then. Kurt Gowdy was a part of that group.
I think he might have been paired with Joe Garagiola at
Yeah,
the time.
that's right, yeah.
And those two just made a phenomenal broadcast team.
Called a lot of NFL games. This next guy is one of my personal
Oh,
favorites.
yeah. Ramin and I will put him to the top of the NFL and Kevin Harlan.
Kevin Harlan, he's not. He's only the one on certain broadcast crews. He's not the one on CBS for the NFL. He's not the one in the college football. But his radio voice, Kevin Harlan is one of those guys I wrote down. Adds to the big game, kind of like we talked about with Brian Barnhart.
There you go. But by the way, we're doing this. We didn't do all of the sportscasters out there because we're trying to limit the show to a little bit, about 40 to 45 minutes. So if we forgot your favorite sportscaster, we apologize. But we got a few
See
more
it
to
in
go
our
through.
comment. We've had some comments, so let us know.
The round mound of rebound.
Oh, boy.
Again, a sports broadcaster, I don't know if it's the
No.
right word, but
Adjacent.
he's a commentator on
Yes.
sports. But again, Charles Barkley is a love him or hate him kind of guy. But you got to say one thing. He is funny, and he's not afraid to say what he wants to say.
Exactly. And you can appreciate that. And his broadcast partner, the next guy on the list, probably one of the most consistent in what he does. And you know what? His gigs, as they continue through time, he's continued to get the big moments. I love this guy.
EJ Ernie Johnson.
Oh my gosh. The Nito stat of the night on TNT, sponsored by no one. I mean, Ernie Johnson, he is who did we talk about having? Reese Davis having to keep those guys on set. It is unbelievable what he has to do.
And Ernie Johnson's dad. I grew up. I was with the Braves on TBS. His dad called all the Braves games with Skip Carey. So
Yes.
that's how Ernie Johnson, that whole family.
He was a part of those beginning days of TBS.
There you go.
Any others that you want to talk about?
Well, Doris Burke, she's probably the premier female sports broadcaster right now. I didn't want to leave her out. She does a great job. She calls the game. She analyzes. I know she takes a little bit of abuse, but let's face it, we all know that.
I mean, in the last 5 years, the number of big NBA games she's called, and let's be honest, female or female, she knows what she's talking about.
She's good. I like her.
Doris knows basketball, that's for sure.
I think some other ones interesting that just in the last couple of days before us taping this program here on our first Wednesday of August, some of the broadcast crews have been announced for the upcoming season. Fox is pretty much unchanged. I really enjoy Greg Olson's work. He's going to get a #1 gig here sooner than later. ESPN, I showed the graphic to Jeff. It's like some people below their #1s. You have Sean McDonough on play-by-play, Dave Pash, and the one guy that you and I really agree on, Joe Tessitore.
I realized I forgot my boy Joe Tessitore when he says I'm Joe Tessitore.
That's a guy that it seems like any game he calls, it's either really close or he has that moment, and he brings that big game feeling that we talk about with some of these other guys.
He's one of those guys with the voice. The Joel Myers, who's not on the list, had the voice. Joe Tessitore had the voice. Harry Callis had the voice.
And good to see Joe Tessitore not just calling college football. He's a big-time boxing guy.
Yep.
Yeah, a couple of people I wanted to put on, and this is going to show my bias, the radio voice of the Cubs, Pat Hughes, and the TV voice of the Cubs, Boog Shambi. Everybody just loves Pat Hughes if you're a Cubs fan. If you're a Cubs fan, it's kind of divided with Boog Shambi because they think he's too national and not enough of a homer.
You're going to think I'm lying, but I was out to dinner with my brother-in-law last night, and he's Chris Constantine, and he said the exact same thing. I can't stand Shambi because he wants to be national instead of Cubs, and I want a Cubs announcer. Because Cubs announcers, through the years, you think about them, Brookshire and before Skip Carey, or before Harry Carey, there was a couple of guys, and they were very, very homers.
Milo Hamilton.
And so it was incredible.
I love Boog Shambi. I think he calls a great game.
He has a smooth tones. I think one other guy, just to throw his name out there, not that we have to comment on, whether or not you like him or not, Gus Johnson. Johnson, he's been calling sports now for quite a few years, and he's got that #1 gig for Fox calling football, college basketball. But you gotta love the energy of Gus Johnson.
Let's go to the field with the All-American girl, Jenny Taft.
My quarterback, Joe Klatt.
There's so many announcers we forgot. We apologize. We tried.
Millions.
Yeah.
Where can you not find a ball game on YouTube, from a high school game to D3, college, pro? Sportscasters are everywhere. So we've just listed a small sampling of some of the best professional and
Ryan Rucco does the WNBA, is a great announcer. So there's tons of them.
So many great ones.
So we'd love to hear your opinion.
And if you have any other topics you'd like us to talk about in future episodes as we get closer to fall sports season in high school and college, let us know at hitmix@weiu.net.
Hope you're enjoying this new adventure, and that'll do it for today's show.
And we'll be back next week for another edition of Watch Us Talk Sports.